Good evening and welcome to our daily devotional reading. I hope you had a good day. And if not, I hope you can accept that and let the day fall off of you and try again tomorrow. Find some beauty out there or in there. Let's close our eyes for a moment and turn our attention inward. Look at the silence within. If there's anxiety, if there's a storm instead of a calm, then breathe into it. Take a few of Rebecca's I'm here breaths. Breathing in, I'm, saying it silently in your mind. Breathing out here. I kept having the image of Jesus calming the storm. Call upon whatever you think has the power to do so for you. Your rational mind, your emotional stability, your faith, call upon that part of you which has the power to calm the storm, and let it calm the storm within. I'm here, says the one who can calm the storm. I'm here. Don't ask too many questions about who this is or what this is for now. Leave that contemplation for another time. For now, feel the calm. And let's step out onto the water that is Plato. We're starting a new dialogue today. I should remember to mention that. Charmides, or also known as temperance. Socrates is telling a story in this dialogue. He is officially the only speaker, but he narrates the words of others throughout. Yesterday evening I returned from the army at Potidea, and having been a good while away, I thought that I should like to go and look at my old haunts. So I went into the Palestria of Taurius, which is over against the temple adjoining the porch of the king Archon, and there I found a number of persons, most of whom I knew, but not all. My visit was unexpected, and no sooner did they see me entering than they saluted me from afar on all sides. And Seraphon, who is a kind of madman, started up and ran to me, seizing my hand and saying, "How did you escape, Socrates?" I should explain that an engagement had taken place at Potidea not long before we came away, of which the news had only just reached Athens. "You see," I replied, "that here I am." I'm here. There was a report, he said, that the engagement was very severe and that many of our acquaintances had fallen. That, I replied, was not far from the truth. "I suppose," he said, "that you were present?" Or the other translation, "Were you actually in battle?" I was. "Then sit down and tell us the whole story, which as yet we have only heard imperfectly." I took the place which was assigned to me by the side of Critias, the son of Caelestros, and when I had saluted him and the rest of the company, I told them the news from the army, and answered their several inquiries. Then, when there had been enough of this, I, in my turn, began to make inquiries about matters at home, about the present state of philosophy, and about the youth. I asked whether any of them were remarkable for wisdom, or beauty, or both. Critias, glancing at the door, invited my attention to some youths who were coming in, and talking noisily to one another, followed by a crowd. "Of the beauties, Socrates," he said, "I fancy that you will soon be able to form a judgment. For those who are just entering are the advance guard of the great beauty, as he is thought to be of the day, and he is likely to be not far off himself." "Who is he?" I said, "and who is his father?" "Charmides," he replied, "is his name. He is my cousin and the son of my uncle Glaucon. I rather think that you know him too, although he was not grown up at the time of your departure." "Certainly I know him," I said, "for he was remarkable even then when he was still a child, and I should imagine that by this time he must be almost a young man." "You will see," he said, "in a moment what progress he has made and what he is like." He had scarcely said the word when Charmides entered. "Now you know, my friend, that I cannot measure anything, and of the beautiful I am simply such a measure as white linen is of chalk. For almost all young persons appear to be beautiful in my eyes. But at that moment when I saw him coming in, I confess that I was quite astonished at his beauty and stature. All the world seemed to be enamored of him. Amazement and confusion reigned when he entered, and a troop of lovers followed him. That grown-up men like ourselves should have been affected in this way was not surprising, but I observed that there was the same feeling among the boys. All of them, down to the very least child, turned and looked at him as if he had been a statue. Seraphon called me and said, "What do you think of him, Socrates? Has he not a beautiful face?" "Most beautiful," I said. "But you would think nothing of his face," he replied, "if you could see his naked form. He is absolutely perfect. And to this they all agreed. By Heracles, I said, there never was such a paragon, if he has only one other slight addition. What is that? Said Critias. If he has a noble soul. And being of your house, Critias, he may be expected to have this. He is as fair and good within as he is without, replied Critias. Then before we see his body, should we not ask him to show us his soul, naked and undisguised? He is just of an age at which he will like to talk. That he will, said Critias. And I can tell you that he is a philosopher already, and also a considerable poet, not in his own opinion only, but in that of others. That, my dear Critias, I replied, is a distinction which has long been in your family, and is inherited by you from Solon. But why do you not call him and show him to us? For even if he were younger than he is, there could be no impropriety in his talking to us in the presence of you, who are his guardian and cousin. Very well, he said. Then I will call him. And turning to the attendant, he said, Call Charmides and tell him that I want him to come and see a physician about the illness of which he spoke to me the day before yesterday. Then again addressing me, he added, He has been complaining lately of having a headache when he rises in the morning. Now why should you not make him believe that you know a cure for the headache? Obviously it's a hangover. I'm not even going to write that down. Well, maybe. Why not? I said, but will he come? He will be sure to come, he replied. He came as he was bidden, and sat down between Critias and me. Great amusement was occasioned by everyone pushing with might and main at his neighbor in order to make a place for him next to themselves, until at the two ends of the row one had to get up and the other was rolled over sideways. Now I, my friend, was beginning to feel awkward. My former bold belief in my powers of conversing with him had vanished. And when Critias told him that I was the person who had the cure, he looked at me. The other translation has, he turned his full gaze upon me in such an indescribable manner, and was just going to ask a question. And at that moment all the people in the palestra crowded about us, and, oh rare, I caught sight of the inwards of his garment and took the flame. Then I could no longer contain myself. I thought how well Sidious understood the nature of love, when in speaking of a fair youth he warned someone not to bring the fawn in the sight of the lion to be devoured by him. for I felt that I had been overcome by a sort of wild beast appetite. But I controlled myself. And when he asked me if I knew the cure of the headache, I answered, but with an effort, that I did know. And what is it? He said. I replied that it was a kind of leaf which required to be accompanied by a charm. If a person would repeat the charm at the same time that he used the cure, he would be made whole. But without the charm, the leaf would be of no avail. Then I will write out the charm from your dictation, he said. With my consent, I said, or without my consent? With your consent, Socrates, he said, laughing. Very good, I said. And are you quite sure that you know my name? I ought to know you, he replied, for there is a great deal said about you among my companions. And I remember when I was a child seeing you in company with my cousin Critias. I am glad to find that you remember me, I said, for I shall now be more at home with you and shall be better able to explain the nature of the charm, about which I felt a difficulty before. For the charm will do more, Charmides, than only cure the headache. I dare say that you have heard eminent physicians say to a patient who comes to them with bad eyes that they cannot cure his eyes by themselves, but that if his eyes are to be cured, his head must be treated. And then again they say that to think of curing the head alone, and not the rest of the body also, is the height of folly. And arguing in this way, they apply their methods to the whole body, and try to treat and heal the whole and the part together. Did you ever observe that this is what they say? Yes, he said. And they are right. And you would agree with them? Yes, he said, certainly I would. His approving answers reassured me, and I began by degrees to regain confidence, and the vital heat returned. Imagine it's not the flame of desire this time. Such, Charmides, I said, is the nature of the charm, which I learned when serving with the army from one of the physicians of the Thracian king Zamolxis, who are said to be so skillful that they can even give immortality. This Thracian told me that in these notions of theirs, which I was just now mentioning, the Greek physicians are quite right as far as they go. But Zomilgox, he added, our king, who is also a god, says further, that as you ought not to attempt to cure the eyes without the head, or the head without the body, so neither ought you to attempt to cure the body without the soul. And this, he said, is the reason why the cure of many diseases is unknown to the physicians of the Greeks, because they are ignorant of the whole, which ought to be studied also, for the part can never be well unless the whole is well. For all good and evil, whether in the body or in human nature, originates, as he declared, in the soul, and overflows from thence. And as if from the head into the eyes, and therefore if the head and body are to be well, you must begin by curing the soul. That is the first thing. And the cure, my dear youth, has to be effected by the use of certain charms. And these charms are fair, beautiful words. And by them, temperance is implanted in the soul. Temperance, sophrosune, soundness of mind, prudence, discretion. Soundness of mind, sophrosune. And where temperance is, there health is speedily imparted, not only to the head, but to the whole body. And he taught me the cure and the charm at the same time. And he who taught me the cure and the charm at the same time added a special direction. Let no one, he said, persuade you to cure the head until he has first given you his soul to be cured by the charm. For this, he said, is the great error of our day in the treatment of the human body, that physicians separate the soul from the body. And he added with emphasis, at the same time making me swear to his words, let no one, however rich or noble or fair, persuade you to give him the cure without the charm. Now I have sworn, and I must keep my oath, and therefore, if you will allow me to apply the Thracian charm first to your soul, as the stranger directed, I will afterwards proceed to apply the cure to your head. But if not, I do not know what I am to do with you, my dear Charmides. Thus far our scripture of the evening. Do not let your spirit wane. So this dialogue is about temperance, about sophrosune. Sophrosune. Or sophrosune. Sound-mindedness. Temperance is a word that we don't always like to hear, because it feels as if it's curbing our freedom. But that's exactly what this is about. It's the treatment for the headache of the morning, the hangover. For if you had temperance the night before, thou shalt be fine. It's the cure for not what's the word? If you just swallow something whole. The beautiful, I'm thinking of the whole image he had of the prey, the gazelle and the lion. Although we used another word, not gazelle. And it helps the lion not just to swallow the prey whole. When Socrates was on fire, he explicitly said, but I controlled myself. Temperance. Now there is a time and place for everything, I think. And temperance, the word, maybe not sophrosune, but temperance has the idea of time in it. So the appropriate time plays therein. But we will go much deeper into temperance as the dialogue progresses. Let us speak of the beautiful soul, the noble soul. The one as beautiful and good within as without. I'm not sure how I feel about this. It feels like, okay, I'm just going to speak now. So please take it as someone who did not give this a forethought. I thought I was going to have drinks after work, so I prepared this morning. So I almost forgot what I had, but I didn't have drinks. There was temperance enforced on me. Just because someone forgot, I broke this. Just because someone forgot the wine, not because they didn't like me. To see the naked soul, not undisguised. See, it seems like such a noble thing to say you must fall in love with the soul before the body. And I suppose it is noble and probably more sustainable. Then why is there resistance in me towards that? Maybe because it's easier to give your body than to give your soul. It's easier to show your body than your soul. That being said by someone who doesn't like to be seen. And there's also an element in my resistance of people fooling themselves when they see souls. Because we do see with rose-colored glasses when we're in love. But if you fall in love with the soul before, I don't know. I do think maybe not. Potentially, you can fall in love with anyone if you just pay them enough attention. Because most human beings are quite beautiful. And if you pay attention to them, you see their beauty. The right kind of attention. But it's so easy to just project things on people. What I like to do, and we see it here, everyone is in awe of this boy. Well, he already has hangover, so I hope he's not too young. Everyone is in awe of him. So it's potentially a type of mimetic love, or maybe he is just that beautiful. And I have noticed, looking back, I noticed that I've done it as far back as I can remember. That when I'm captivated by someone, not so much romantically, although there's always an element of eros in all attraction for me. That's probably why I always choose men. I don't only look at them carefully, watch them carefully. I watch other people interact with them carefully. I read because I think I've mentioned that I've been always pretty good at reading faces, but I've also had training in how to read faces. And but that does not, I can't read a face when it interacts with me. There's too much personal emotion from my side. So I have no idea. I can't read what people think of me unless they are very obvious. But I can read people interacting with other people. And from that then I deduce, if that's the right one, induce, guess. No, it's not guess. Who they are, what they're like. And how the way people look at them is also very telling. Because people do have a special way of looking at certain people. You can easily see pure politeness, pure kindness in someone's face when they look at someone. Or genuine respect or admiration, or even a bit of awe. And then there's various different types of them. You can see when someone just looks with awe because someone is physically beautiful or famous. But with some people, it's almost as if those around them pick up on something in their soul. And there's a different type of awe, almost a bewilderment in the way they look at those people. I find that interesting to watch. And then my heart ponders the meaning thereof, of course. Treat and heal the whole and the part together. The part can never be well unless the whole is well. Now this is to do with the individual body, soul working together. And we will come back to that. But I do want to speak on, well, we will come back to that with reference to the Desert Fathers. Because I wanted to say, I do want to speak a bit mystically before we do that. But I fear the rest of this speak, but if it has not already been so, will turn a bit mystical. Sometimes this morning as well, I asked myself, why why am I doing this? And with this, I sometimes mean the bare act of living. Why bother? And really, I'd have no good answer sometimes, especially this close to my period. But I remember in times when I'm less inside the pit, see, I don't actually consider myself as someone who worked on herself, although if you look at my biography, it will appear as if I did, because I've undergone a lot of therapy. I did a lot of work on myself. But I've said a number of times to people directly, more than something like this, that the only reason I think we should even bother with things like that is for the sake of the whole. Because treating a part, you never know what effect that's going to have on the whole. If it has a good effect on the part, why would it not have a good effect on the whole? Which is actually the reason why I don't like the manifestation thing, but that will be for another time. I find it very selfish and short-sighted. I am so sorry if this comes as a shock to some of you, but I am not all-knowing. And so manifesting things in my life, I don't know what effect that's going to have on the greater whole. So I'd rather not. But then the next sentence is, the part can never be well unless the whole is well. And that is like, fuck. It doesn't really matter how much work you do on yourself, as long as the collective is not okay, you will not be okay. And what does that ask of us? We can't go around trying to fix every individual. I don't know if running into politics is the answer. I imagine not, actually. I see people who playing in politics as people who work in the temporal, the fleeting, and there's a deeper place where we can work from. But I wouldn't know how. Unless it's building the people around you, that might be it. What legacy, what good did the Desert Fathers have on the whole? Oh dear, did I lose my place? Oh, no, I didn't. The goal of ascetic life is charity, love, caritas, ubi caritas et amor. Caritas, charity, okay, yeah. Because amor is love. Caritas is also, you know what charity is. The goal of contemplation knowledge is contemplative knowledge is theology. So the Desert Fathers, at least in this stratus, had like the two pillar, the practice, the ascetic life, the ascetic practices of training your body and your mind, Again, like I said, I would not recommend doing it like that. I would rather strengthen the body and build the body and build the physical brain rather than deny it sleep and everything else. And the contemplation, the theoria of the physical world. So the two together, treating the two together, the inner and the outer, because in the end they are one. And just going for a walk will have a good effect on your mood. And strengthening your emotional resilience will probably help you take better care of yourself physically. I have a long way to go. I imagine if you are human, so do you. But we're in this together, in this make-believe monastery. May the spirit of Sophia be with us.